you do that? How did you do that?
Welcome back everyone to another ESO build video. Today I'm going to be giving you the update to the Off Balance Templar build. This is a Magicka Templar and this is for the Wolfhunter DLC. Now this has been used a lot in the past, but obviously per patch it needs an update and this is no different. It did get a lot stronger, so stay tuned and you'll see where this is going. Now first of all I'm going to go into the stats, so I'll make sure that we're buffed up of course. We're sitting on 41.7k max Magicka, 17k max health, almost 900 recovery, 2.7, almost 2.8k spell damage, and nearly 60% spell crit. Our physical resist and our spell resistance are a little low, but don't worry, I'll get to that when it comes to switch out slots, and we can add a resist buff if you need to. We are using 64 points of our Magicka, all in there, nothing else anywhere else because there's no point, but I'll go over that as well. And of course we're using a Thief from Understone, Stage 4 Vampire, and Minor Slayer is of course with us because of our sets, but we will get to that in a moment. The food is max health, max Magicka. You do not need Witch Mother's food. However, if you don't have Elemental Drain present, then you're more than welcome to, but you will go down to 15k health and it's a bit squishy. So I would highly recommend using this stuff right here. Now, I am going to go into the skills. This is going to make a lot more sense as we go, but I will explain them in detail for those of you that don't understand. If you do understand already, of course, you can skip this if you really want to, but in doing so, you're probably going to end up asking me questions that I already answered, so I wouldn't recommend it. Anyway, here we go. First of all, Purifying Light. Now, this used to be Destructive Clench in the previous setup, but this has been changed, and this is for good reason as well. But Purifying Light, this is in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. It's a third ability you unlock. Starts off as Backlash, morph it to Purifying Light. Now what this does is this actually does damage to the target initially. Then after 6 seconds, it accumulates how much damage has been done to the target and releases 20% of the damage as a pop at the end. But it has a maximum. It will only go as far as 25046, depending on buffs of course. It cannot crit, although sometimes it looks like it does. This is the actual flat damage it will release maximum. So as long as you fill that kind of, that pot, that's what it will release after 6 seconds. Also, another very important point is once it finishes, there will be an area of effect around the target, healing you and other members for 2.7k every 2 seconds for 6 seconds. So you get 3 ticks of heal there, which are really nice, and they can crit, of course, as well. Now, what it looks like is this. You've seen it. I'm sure you've seen it. There's the light as such, and when it pops, it will do X amount of damage, which will be low. Ignore the fire. And underneath it you can see there's a little circle there. Now that heals you. Now what you do is if you hit it first of all and then do loads and loads of damage inside of it, that's about to fire off, you'll see the damage is higher. 17k there instead of like 10 or whatever it was. The more damage you do, the stronger that is. Now it's very important to keep that in your rotation. It starts off on the front bar. Well, we'll get to rotations later, but that's your first ability. Also, the next ability is Rearming Trap. Now this is a bit of a flex slot because you can still apply this ability via another ability and still get the same buffs basically. So I prefer to use this in most content, but it's a beast trap, goes underneath the target, stuns the target, and does damage over time, which is physical damage, not Magicka. So it's not that high. As you can see, it's only doing 1k a tick, but it does contribute. But above all, while that's active, after 6 seconds it will rearm, by the way, so you get 12-second uptime on it. It will actually give you minor force, increasing all of your critical damage. Done. So any crits that you do will be increased by 10%. Now this is in the Fighters Guild skill line. It's the last ability to unlock, so you do need high Fighters Guild level to do this. And of course, the easiest way to achieve that is to kill undead, Daedra, werewolves, that kind of stuff. And this will level up passively as you go. Unlock this, morph it to Rearming Trap. Now, the flex slot, or the idea of switching this out. If you're in content such as Halls of Fabrication, for example, and you have a lot of stuns and interrupts and all that kind of stuff, same with Cloud Rest as well, if you get stunned a lot, you may want to switch this out for Race Against Time in the Psijic Order skill line. Now, I would only recommend that if you have a group that is full on sustain. Now, what I mean by that is if you're using Worm in your group, you're taking lots of synergies, and you have Ellie Drain present and all that kind of stuff, you can swap this out for that particular skill if you want. If not, and the Magicka recovery incoming is not so good, and you just got the odd synergy here and there, and perhaps just Ellie Drain running, then I would recommend Rearm and Trap. The reason being is Race Against Time is expensive. I mean, it's 2 plus 2.4 maybe. I can't remember the exact cost, but inside your rotation it is going to cost Magicka, which is our main pool, of course. So be careful with it. If you're in a fully optimized group and you've got lots and lots of Magicka return, sure, go for it. If not, use this. But in situation where you've got lots and lots of stuns and stuff, Race Against Time obviously does help. Personally, I've not had too many problems with this, but I know some people struggle to keep up resources occasionally. They don't take too many synergies, and they can't keep this up. But it depends on the content. So you've got two options. Now, where are we? Adric's Spear, Dawn's Wrath. We are looking at Jesus Beam, of course. Radiant Glory. This did get buffed up back to where it should be. 480% increase to your damage done depending on the target's health. So under 50%, the lower their health, the more damage you do. But we have morphed this specifically to Radiant Glory for a very good reason. This is in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. It's the last one you unlock. Now, it starts off as Radiant Destruction, but we've morphed it to Radiant Glory. Now, Oppression does do additional damage based on the amount of Magicka left in your bar. Due to the fact this is an execute and you're at the end of the fight, most people don't have that much Magicka left. So that extra bonus is a little bit on the negative side, and actually in lots and lots and lots of testing didn't outperform by much more than about 1k DPS overall on this particular setup, of course. However, this does heal you instead for 20% of the damage inflicted. Now, I've seen in excess of several different buffs applied, anywhere up to 80 plus per tick. 20% of that is quite a lot of your health bar if you heal it. So this is very, very strong. During execute, it's stressful situations. You are going to take damage and you heal for the damage done. It's very, very nice indeed. So I would highly recommend this particular morph. For the tiny damage increase that the other variation does, but you're still left squishy. Whereas this, tiny little drop, but you stay alive. Very, very strong indeed. I would personally recommend this one. And basically, the way to apply this is inside your rotation. I will explain it in a moment. This is kind of your kill button. This is where you start doing the most damage while they're low health. And I know it says 50, like I've already said, but I would be very careful with it. 50% is a little bit high, and you'll get kind of the lesser end of the deal. But when they go to around 30 to 25%, that's when you really want to start using it. On trash, I would hit possibly around 40% health. Start using the beam then. Any actual boss, start execute rotations at around 30 to 25. Looks very simple, like this. There's a beam. Big range as well. Every tick that does damage. The lower the health, the more damage it does. That's your main execute, and it is powerful as hell. Now, next ability, our main spammable, is of course Puncturing Sweeps. And the Adric's Spear skill line is the first ability you unlock. Morph it from Puncturing Strikes to Puncturing Sweeps. This is a Magicka ability. It has 8 meters by 6 area of effect, so 8 meters in front of you, 6 meters across. And it does magic damage to all targets hit, but it does additional damage to the first target, so the one in front of you, the one closest. It does snare the target as well, but one key point to this is the damage done per target will actually heal you for 40% of the damage done. So when I'm ignore the fireball because it's going to happen, or the circle. When I hit him, every hit I do can heal me. An area of effect around it will hit multiple other targets as well, and I'll heal from them too. So the more targets you have in front of you, the more you'll heal. It's really, really nice. That's your main spammable. That will make sense when I get to the rotations. In our light, this is a very simple one. This is in the Mage's Guild skill line. This is used a little bit for passives and a little bit for its own bonus, if you like. This will increase your max Magicka by 5%. Also, it will apply Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical by 2191, which is actually 10%. I don't know why they've still got digits in there instead of a percentage, but they do. So to save any confusion, that's a 10% increase on your spell critical chance. Your chance to crit, not your damage. Big difference there. Keep this on your bar at all times on your front bar. You never have to activate it if you don't want to. Ignore the stuff about the stealthy enemies. That's not relevant for PvE. What you do want to pay attention to is your max resource bonus for having this on there. You need Mage's Guild level 2, I believe, to get this. Starts off as Mage Light, morph it to Inner Light. Now, our main Destruction Staff ability on the front bar, because you must have at least one on each bar to benefit from the passives, which I will get to, is Elemental Rage. You need Destruction Staff level 50 to unlock this. Starts off as Elemental Storm, morph it to Elemental Rage, and because we're using a Lightning Staff, it gets a different name. It's called Thunderous Rage instead. Now, this variation of it, of course, is lightning because we're using a lightning staff, which means it lasts 2 seconds longer than the usual. So it's really, really nice, good duration, lots and lots of damage, and it basically looks like this. Anything caught in that is stuffed with area of effect lightning damage. I know it looks like it's doing 14k or so, but when you're fully buffed, that goes way, way higher, especially when you start introducing crit damage, like with the Beast Trap and such, although that's just run out. So that's your main ultimate. The other one is not so important for usage. This is your main ultimate you want to be using as much as possible. The back bar. Light armor skill. Harness Magicka. This is morphed from annulment, which is initially just a basic damage shield. But this particular one, this will actually shield you. Very simple to apply. You can see my health bar is coated in a purple layer. That's how much damage I can take before I touch my health. No resist applied either. It doesn't have resist, but it's a flat bonus to incoming damage. I can take some extra damage. If you receive a hit from spell damage or magic damage or anything like that, and it doesn't take the shield off, you will actually restore 1.4k Magicka over 3 hits. So, if you get hit by, say, 3 fireballs and they all hit you for about 2k apiece, you will actually get magic back based on the amount of light armor worn, just for being hit. As long as the shield doesn't expire. If it does expire, you just start getting hit in the health and you're all good. But this is your main kind of oh shit button. If you're really in trouble, pop the shield first and do some stabs after to heal yourself back again. It's really, really handy. Destruction Staff ability again. This is the second ability you unlock in the skill line. You get it very, very early on. Starts from Wall of Elements, morph it to Elemental Blockade, and of course because we're using a Lightning Staff, it's called Blockade of Storms. Now this will lay on the ground in the range of 18 meters. Like this, with 12 meters across, and anyone caught inside of this will take damage every second. However, this is very, very important to the build. This is incredibly important, in fact, because this is built around not just doing high single target damage with survivability and sustain, as well as doing a lot of area of effect damage, but this is also built around supplying off balance to your group. Now, how this works is that if something is concussed with a lightning status effect, they will take a small amount of damage, but they will also be granted minor vulnerability, meaning the group will hit them for 8% more damage. At the same time, while concussion is active, if Wall of Elements with a lightning staff is active at the same time, anything that is concussed will go off balance for 5 seconds. While it's off balance, you will do additional 70% extra heavy attack damage, and also for a fully charged heavy attack, regardless of whether it's stamina or Magicka based weapons, you will return back resources like you normally would, but you get double back. So it's very, very important. You get increased damage and you get resources back, a lot of them. Now, of course, proccing concussion, we just did it there, there's off balance instantly. Very, very simple. Lasts for 5 seconds with a 15-second cooldown, and then you can reapply it again. So based on our rotation, which again I will get to, we can make that dude go off balance almost guaranteed every second rotation, just based on how we're set up. So it's very important to make sure that your Wall of Elements is down all of the time. The whole time you're doing damage, this must have at least or close to 95 to 100% uptime. Make sure you keep this down. Solar Barrage, this got changed and it is incredibly powerful. It is the second ability you unlock in the Dawn's Wrath skill line. Now, this is supposed to last 6 seconds, but if you have all the passives and stuff, it's obviously improved. So this does 8 seconds worth of damage, once every 2 seconds in area of effect, which is magic damage as well. But every 2 seconds, it will grant you Empower, meaning your light attacks are increased by 40%, which is massive, especially since they got buffed a long time ago in Somerset. Now, if you activate it, it looks like this. Pop, Empower. Pop, Empower again. Every time it bursts, your next light attack is stronger. Now, what you're looking for, you see a dagger with a pink or purple background, that's Empower, and it will fire every 2 seconds. Now, obviously, to utilize that, you want to make sure you've got plenty of light attacks in your rotation, and we do. So keep that ability up at all times, as much as possible anyway. It is in the rotation, I will explain it, but it's very, very important to keep this up because your light attacks will be boosted to hell. Now, we're using Inner Light again on the back bar to get the 5% Magicka bonus and the crit bonus on both bars. However, in certain situations, you might want to swap this out. Now, in some situations, you may want to put Crush and Shock on your bar to make sure that you can interrupt stuff if need be. If you're not already going to bash, or perhaps you haven't got enough stamina because you've been using Beast Trap, whatever. In the Destruction Staff skill line, first ability you unlock, Force Shock, morph it to Crush and Shock, and you can occasionally interrupt while doing damage at the same time, if you want to. Also, another option is if you're in a situation where you need a lot of resistance because there's lots of nasty damage coming in, you can get away with this, which is in the Restoring Light skill line. It is Channeled Focus. Now this takes some time to unlock, so you're gonna make sure you put some of these abilities on your bar to get to the 5th ability. And what this does is you put it on the ground and you are granted with a buff. Now this particular buff will give you Major Ward and Major Resolve just for activating it, and it will give you 120 Magicka back every half a second for the duration, which is 20 seconds. However, standing in the rune, so nice stack and burn bonuses here, you will actually get a 50% increase to the resistance. So if I stand out of it, my resists are sitting at 19 and 14. If I stand in it, they're sitting at 21, almost 22, and 17. Much higher. So in stressful situations, especially during stack ups, especially doing stuff like VHOF or Sanctum or something like that, if you need to make sure you stand close to the boss but there's lots of AoE coming in, then you can put this down and you can use that instead. It doesn't strictly fit inside the rotation to get the most out of your DPS, but it will keep you up, so that's also an option if you want to use that. Also good for your sustain as well. Your choice, however. Now the last ability before the ultimate is Blazing Spear. This is in the Adric Spear skill line. This is a ground-based AoE that you throw, so you place it. It does magic damage every second for 8 seconds, and, of course, people can synergize this to get resources back. I'm sure you've seen this with a healer before, where they throw a shard in and you pick it up and get magic back or get stamina back, depending on which one is highest. This is that exact skill. You have it as a DPS skill, and they can utilize it as well. So this is very good for not only you, but your group as well. 4th ability you unlock, Spear Shards to start with. Blazing Spear is the one you want to turn it into. Luminous Spear does give a little bit more back, but it doesn't do as much damage. Now, finally, the ultimate. Ice Comet is on our back bar. Now, we don't strictly use this unless the boss is almost dead and we don't have enough for our Destro ulti. You want to use your Destro ulti all the time. But if it's got like 1,000,000 health left, perhaps, your group's killing it really fast, you've only got 192 ultimate left, you're not quite anywhere near 240, fire this off, you'll be fine. But don't use it unnecessarily. Only use it as a final kind of finisher if you want. But essentially, this is here for the passives, which I'm now about to get to in a moment. This comes from Mage's Guild, and you do require Mage's Guild 10. So if you don't have Mage's Guild 10, don't panic. First of all, go farm it, because it takes a bit of time. Secondly, what you can do instead is you can put Solar Prison on, which starts off as Nova. You can put this on your back bar instead if you want. You won't get the same passives, of course, but in an oh shit situation, instead of using an ultimate, which requires you to do lots and lots of damage, you can use this instead for the same cost, and you can actually negate 30% of the damage that the boss does to your group. So this is a flex slot also. Ice Comet if you have Max Mage's Guild, Solar Prison if you want to just protect your group for a bit. Choice is yours. Ultimately, you want to make sure that you use your Destro all the time. It's really strong. Now I'm going to go into the passives. So, Piercing Spear, this increases your critical damage by 10%. It is very important that we have high crit chance, because we want to make sure we utilize this bonus. If we crit, we do not only more damage like most people do, but we get a bonus as well. Templars excel at critical damage. Also, you increase the damage done to blocking targets as well, so if anything is blocking, you will still go through their mitigation and such. Really handy. Increase the amount of damage you block from melee attacks. You will get hit occasionally. You do want to block. Make sure you mitigate the damage. When you deal damage with an Adric Spear ability, you have a 25% chance to deal additional 1.7k physical damage or 4.9k magic damage, whichever is higher. Now, this is based off your max resources. So since our maximum Magicka is higher than our stamina, the magic damage is higher for us, so that's the one we actually get. And this can happen every 1.5 seconds. So, Adric Spear skill here, and we have one here, the Spear. So, we have one on the back bar, one on the front bar. Now, while this is running doing damage, and while this is running doing damage, either one of those, every half a second, could proc that passive. You have a 25% chance to make it happen, and it happens a lot. It's very powerful indeed. So if you stack those Adric Spear skills, this will pop out as free damage. It's really nice. Increase your weapon damage by 6% and spell resistance by 2640. Now, of course, we're using Magicka-based weapons, so the weapon damage is no good to us. But the spell resistance is good to us, so make sure you get this as well. Dawn's Wrath, of course, Increases the duration of your sun, fire, eclipse, solar flare, and nova abilities by 2 seconds. Now, our sun flare ability is actually our solar barrage, which is on our back bar. You'll note that in the ability it says 6 seconds, but in the description it says 8. That's because this adds 2 seconds to it. Caster Dawn's Wrath ability generates 3 ultimate. This can happen once every 6 seconds. Now, in our rotation, we are using this, which is the light, and we are using this, which is the solar barrage. They both come from the same skill line, so once every 6 seconds, so long as one of those is being fired, you will gain 3 ultimate. Very, very nice indeed. Jesus Beam as well, but we'll get to that when it comes to rotations anyway. Casting Dawn's Wrath ability also grants you minor sorcery to you and your group for 20 seconds, increasing your spell damage by 5%. So this will help buff you and your group, so keep up a Dawn's Wrath ability all the time. Of course, in the rotation, we are going to be doing that, so this will be up 100% of the time. It's very, very useful. This is for 6 people, by the way, you and 5 others. Reduce the Magicka stamina and ultimate cost of your abilities by 4%. That is essential. Get the cost down. Restoring Light. Now, we're not using too many of these abilities, except for perhaps if we use this, but get the passive nonetheless. Increase the healing effects from your Restoring Light abilities by up to 12% in proportion to the severity of your target's wounds. That one is not that essential for us, so you can dump that if you want. While standing in your own Cleansing Ritual, Rune Focus, or Rite of Passage areas of effect, up to 4 seconds after leaving them, you gain minor mending and increasing your healing done by 8%. That is important. Enemies standing in your Cleansing Ritual, Rune Focus, or Rite of Passage areas of effect will also have their movement reduced by 30%. The snare's not that important, but while Rune Focus is on the floor, if you're standing inside of it and you're doing your rotations, you're stabbing with your puncturing sweeps, you're using your Purifying Light, or you are using your Jesus Beam, your Radiant Glory, your heals will be increased. And if you leave it for 4 seconds, they'll still be increased as well. This one provides bonuses to Restoring Light abilities, reduces the duration of Restoring Aura, we're not using it. Healing Ritual grants 2 ultimate, we're not using it. Rite of Passage, we're not using that either. So you can dump this one. You can dump this one, you can dump this one. Lastly, increases your resurrection speed by 20%. Resurrected allies return with 100% more health, and you give you a 50% chance to fill an empty soul gem after resurrecting somebody. So if you res someone, you use a soul gem. This might give it back. If they get up, you give them more health back, and the fact that you can res faster than anybody else in the game is very, very important indeed. People will die in your groups, dungeons, trials, whatever. You are the fastest reser on the field. Make sure you pick them up ASAP. Now, destruction stuff. Of course, make sure you get every single one of these. They're all beneficial. This will increase the damage done by your heavy attacks to nearby targets. So, if you max this out, nearby targets will receive splash damage for your heavy attacks with the lightning stuff. Very, very important indeed. This one, any damage done with your destruction staff abilities, including perhaps your death royalty or even your lights and heavy attacks, this will be increased because you will go through the resistances of the target. Increase your chance to apply burn, concussion, and chilled status effects to your target by 100%. That doesn't mean 100% chance, like it's guaranteed. It means 100% from the base, whatever that may be. Now, as you saw a moment ago, I showed you a very brief example of how to apply concussion and off balance at the same time to make that actually happen. That is heightened by this passive, so that is why it's so easy to apply based on the way that we're set up. This is very, very important. You must have a destruction staff ability slotted, hence why we have the death royalty on the front bar. We have no room for any destruction staff skills on the front bar, but our ultimate does fit. In doing so, all of our area of effect damage will be increased by 8% for using a lightning staff. So our ultimate, our puncturing sweeps, our wall of elements, our spear, all of those are area of effect damage, and they will all be boosted. Also, our monster set, which we will get to later, that is also boosted by it. That does stack with minor vulnerability as well, which is the concussion effect from lightning. Also, when you kill an enemy with a destruction staff ability, you restore 3600 Magicka. So if you kill something with a light attack, a heavy attack, a destro ulti, a wall of elements, whatever, if it gets the last say on an enemy death, you will get magic back. Very important indeed. Light armor. We're using 5 pieces of light armor, by the way. So we can get really good bonuses from these because they're based on how many pieces we have equipped. So also, so does the shield. So make sure you repair your armor regularly, because if you lose one piece and it's broken, you can't use the shield. Now, this increases your maximum recovery by 4% per piece, so 20% recovery there. Reduces the cost of Magicka abilities for each piece worn by 2%, so there's a 10% bonus there. Increases our spell resistance for each piece worn. Also increases our spell crit rating for having 5 pieces or more, which is another 10%, and increases our spell penetration. So we actually go through the target's resistances by 4884. Now that might look a bit weird in digits, but generally PvE enemies have 18,200 resistance. This ignores that much of it. So if you can calculate all your penetration bonuses for you personally, or debuffs for your group that apply to the target's resistance, and you can get up to 18.2, all the better. If not, get as close to it as you possibly can, but I'll explain where that all goes when it comes to the champion points and stuff later. We are using 1 piece of medium armor. You don't necessarily need this one because it's for weapon crit, so dump it. You can utilize this to increase your stamina recovery. We are using 1 stamina ability if you're using beast trap, so we don't want to waste too much unnecessarily. We want to make sure we get it back quickly. Also reduces the cost. Improved sneak is not necessarily essential, so you can dump that if you want. And of course this one does count because you will dodge roll mechanics occasionally, and you want to make sure that it costs less. We're using 1 piece of heavy armor. Get these if you have enough spare points. This will increase a small amount of your resistances for each piece worn. This will increase your return for stamina and magicka based on each piece worn, and of course your health recovery. It's not massive, but it does count, so get this if you've got the spare points. Also, Juggernaut is very important. You are a bit squishy because you're wearing light armor. You want to make sure that you buff your health up a little bit, and for each piece worn this will give you 2%. We're wearing 1, so we'll get that. Vampire. We are a vampire, of course we are. This increases your max magicka and stamina recovery by 10%, which is essential. We want that recovery to make sure that we get our beast traps up and running and can block and break and all that kind of stuff. And we want the magicka return so we can do more damage because we can spam our abilities a bit more. And of course, undeaf. The lower your health is while under 50% health, the less damage you take from all sources. Up to 33% less damage the lower you go. So if you're really, really low on health, that's your tankiest moment and the less likely you are to die, believe it or not. Yes, you take more damage from fire as a vampire, but just stay out of the fire. This also contributes towards fire damage as well. So although you do take 25% more, you also do start mitigating that effect the lower your health goes. So make sure that you are aware of mechanics, don't stand in stupid on purpose, and if you do get caught short, you've always got your damage shield. Don't panic. Fighter's Guild, of course you're going to need a couple of these passives. Intimidating Presence reduces the cost of rearming trap and any other Fighter's Guild abilities you use. Get this as soon as possible, otherwise you'll never be able to stay in that beast trap. Make sure you get this because any undead werewolf or daedra you kill will give you 9 ultimate back if you get the kill and blow. You can spam your Destro ulti more or whatever it is you're using. Mage's Guild, of course, we want to get level 10 so we can get Ice Comet on the back bar. The main reason for that are these passives here. You can, of course, increase the duration of your Ice Comet, but we generally don't use it unless it's kind of oh shit moment and the boss is almost dead. But above all, you want to make sure that you get this passive here because this increases your maximum magicka and recovery by 2% for each Mage's Guild ability slotted. Now, as you can see on the front bar here, we have Inner Light. That will increase our magicka recovery and our magicka maximum amount by 2%, but on the back bar, we actually have a 4% bonus because we have Ice Comet as well. So if you want that tiny, tiny bonus, go for it. If not, you can always fit Nova on the back, like I said earlier. Undaunted, these are essential. Every time you pick up any synergy, so pick them all up, you will get 4% resources back. Max health, max stam, max magicka. So you get stamina back so you can put more beast traps down and block and stuff. You get magic back so you can do more damage. You get health back so you don't get dead. Yes, I said that like that on purpose. And also, all synergies are beneficial. Bone Shield will protect you and your group. The Spear Shards that you pick up will give you resources back. And possibly give you other bonuses depending on what sets people are wearing. If you pick up a Nova, for example, you will do X amount of damage in area of effect. It's absolutely nuts. Pick up every single synergy you can. Don't leave them on the floor for other people. You will get stuff back. Incredibly important. Also, because we're wearing 3 different types of armor, medium, light, and heavy, for each type, we get 2% to our max resources back. So if we're wearing 3 different types, we get 6% maximum magic, maximum health, and maximum stamina. Also, my favorite passive of all. By the way, you might want to get Seed Shield. That you can also use on your back bar flex slot. Your trial leaders will probably tell you why you need that. I'm just going to say Sanctum Ophidia, and I'll leave that where it is. It's not important right now, but just grab level 1 of that so you're happy with it. Anyway, we are a high elf, of course. We have an increased max magicka recovery by 9%. We also have an increased max magicka bonus by 10%. And we also do more damage with flame, frost, and shock by an additional 4%. So these are very, very important passives. Make sure you get them as soon as possible. You get them at level 50 maxed out, by the way. Also, the most essential passive in the game, in my opinion, is medicinal use. We are using shiny potions. Now, you can see there it lasts 47.6 seconds. Now, if you don't have that passive, they last 35. But if you look very carefully, the cooldown is 45 seconds. So that means the potions last 2.6 seconds longer than the cooldown. So when the potion's grayed out, you can't use it. When it's in color again, you can use it. We can reapply it before the cooldown or before the duration actually runs out. Meaning if you are keeping on top of your potions, you can have 100% uptime on these 3 bonuses. As well as a 7.5k Magicka return as well. So we are using those. The way to make them, by the way, is Lady Smock, Cornflower, and Water Hyacinth alongside whichever water is for your level. Larkin's Tears should be the ones. I will put that on the website, however. Now, that's the passive done. Now we're going to get into the gear. Now, there are some options here. One base set, which is not optional. That's the one you really want to get. Then there's another set that you can swap. Now, I'm going to skip some of this so we can get to the bottom. Now, Overwhelming. This is from Tempest Island, and this will grant you maximum Magicka, spell damage again, and then when you activate a class ability, that's very specific, by the way. When you activate a class ability, you have a 15% chance to basically activate this set, and for 6 seconds, within 12 meters, the closest target will get hit for 2.5k shock damage every second. As soon as it's run out, it can be reapplied again, as long as you press a class ability. It's very, very strong indeed. And this, of course, can apply concussion effects as well, meaning that while inside your wall of elements, can force it to go off balance. Now, this set is only really viable on a build that requires class abilities. I don't mean just one every so often. I mean borderline spammable. And if you look carefully, we have Power of the Light, which is 1. It's proc straight away. You can see I'm covered in lightning. Watch me get close to him. Zap, 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 zap. Another class ability, procced again, instantly. Zap, zap, you see where I'm going with this? Back bar, we use a spear, that's a class ability. We also use solar barrage, which is another class ability. Then we go to the front, and we're doing other stuff, and it will proc, there you go, it goes again. We are using a lot of class abilities. Most builds out there tend to use a couple of class abilities, unless there may be a mag DK or something like that. And then the rest is weapon spammables, guild spammables, all that kind of stuff. We can fully utilize this set because 5 of our abilities are class abilities. So we are never not going to be without this. Yeah, of course, sometimes it has a cooldown because we may not proc it. But if we're lucky, this can actually stay up all the time. It's very, very strong indeed. So you want to make sure you get 5 pieces of this. Now, this is very specific. You can use 5 pieces of the armor. Or you can use 3 pieces of the jewelry and then 2 pieces of the armor, or mix and match. As long as this is on you all the time. Do not use the weapon for this. We're using class abilities on the front. We're using class abilities on the back. We want this on us 100% of the time. So whatever order you decide to put this in, make sure that no matter what, 5 pieces are on you all the time. Now the other set that you can use, which is a swap out by the way, is Sororia. Don't panic. There is a swap out for non-trial runners. Don't panic. Sororia Lightning Staff specifically on the front bar. In precise, we are a Templar. We are using minor force from our beast trap. We are also benefiting from a 10% increase to crit damage again because of our passives. So we want to make sure that we pump our crit up as much as possible. We don't have a lot of crit on the sets because Sororia has spell damage, minor Slayer, increasing your damage by 5% in trials and dungeons, max Magicka, and then this bonus on the end, which I'll explain in a minute. We don't have any crit on our sets. So we're benefiting purely by the Mundus Stone and this trait. But our crit is high. We're almost 60%, which means those really important Jesus Beam ticks and our main spammables and all that kind of stuff are critting much more often than they would be if we'd had a different trait. Now, this set specifically, you want to make sure that you've got 3 pieces on your body, whether it be jewelry or body, doesn't matter, and 2 pieces being the staff, because this counts as 2 now. If you don't have this, do not panic. What you can use instead is War Maidens, which comes from Vardenfell, or you can buy it off the traders. Exactly the same trait, exactly the same pieces, and it will be very, very close. The overall kind of peak DPS I've had on this solo, just with Ellie Drain, with War Maiden, is between 41 and 43k DPS. With this particular set, if you want to push the extra numbers, this can easily crack 45 all day long. It's very, very close. There's only 3k in it, so it's entirely up to you which one you choose. But for those of you out there that like the trials, especially normal trials, because you can pick this up quite easily, this is perfect. If you don't like trials, you can of course get War Maiden instead, and you'll still be topping some really nice damage. But don't forget, this particular set here, while dealing direct single target damage, so you can do light attacks or you can do direct damage abilities, your power of the light and stuff like that, this will proc an ability that lasts 10 seconds, and while standing in it, you'll gain more spell damage. If you stand in the ring, this will constantly proc. If you move out of it, you've got 5 seconds to get back in again before it falls off. If you can keep an eye on it, this will benefit you a lot, and you can stack spell damage, 30 spell damage in fact, up to 20 times on your character, giving you a massive spell damage boost. However, if you're not too good with mechanics, you're not too good at staying inside the circle and all that kind of stuff, go for War Maiden, you can't go wrong. Now, how this works basically, here's some direct damage. You see, not the big circle, the small one in the middle. That one there. You can see that there's a flame timer on my bar. It's going up 8 stacks, 9 stacks, 10 stacks. It's only 10 seconds long. Keep it procced. Every 5 seconds you must do direct damage to keep that going. If you come out of it, timer's going down, but you can go back in again and you're fine. You can keep it. But it's really risky. You can only come out of it for as much as 5 seconds before you go in, and you must do direct damage again to re-proc it. If you leave it for too long, 4, 3, 2, 1, sometimes you can get away with an extra proc. Other times you might miss the cooldown and the timer, and then you're stuffed. So you can go in and out. See the 4 seconds starts again, but watch what happens if I stop. Goodbye buff. Pay attention, stay in and out of the circle as much as you can. Some situations may not allow you to do this. For example, if you are fighting on the twins in VMOL, for example, you could proc it, get conversions, have to swap sides. No, there's no pond in VMOL. Not like that anyway. Now I've lost it, and I have to start again. Oh dear. That is a problem. If you can't keep on top of it, go War Maidens. If you can keep on top of it, Sororia all day long. Anyway, that will give you a really, really good bonus to your damage, but it's not far off War Maidens, because War Maidens is obviously guaranteed. It stays with you the whole time. And what War Maidens does, if you're not familiar with it, is this will give you a spell crit bonus, which is really, really nice, because we don't have that spell crit on the rest of our sets. We have max Magicka, we have spell damage, and of course this adds 400 spell damage to our magic abilities. Now, just to save any confusion, why that is beneficial to us in place of Sororia, because Sororia is just flat spell damage, is because this is magic damage, so is this, so is this, so is our spear, and so is our solar barrage. So our main source of damage on 5 separate abilities are all magic damage, so it does boost it really, really nicely. So the choice is yours. Now, we are using a lightning staff on the back bar, a maelstrom lightning staff I might add. Now, of course, if you don't have access to the maelstrom staff, or you're not ready for it yet, or you haven't even tried yet, of course you want to know what to put on the back bar. It's entirely up to you. You can put a crafted staff on the back bar if you want, or if you have Sororia or War Maiden, whichever set you've decided to use, you can put another one of those on the back bar as well. Make sure it is infused, because then the glyph you put on it, we're using a shock staff, can actually push the off balance even more. It procs so much that that extra concussion really does make the difference. Now, infused, of course, increases the damage of the glyph and reduces the cooldown. Now, this can fire every 2 seconds. Previously, if you had Wall of Elements down, it would fire off the glyph and that's it. You're on the front bar now, so we never see it again. However, now if you fire Wall of Elements on the bar that's got the infused glyph, if you swap over, every 2 seconds or so that will fire. It doesn't have to be infused, it will still fire no matter what, but infused is obviously the quickest way to make it proc. And we'll give you an example here. Now look above his head, see that one ability, then a couple. One ability, bam, there it goes again. 1, 2, shock glyph. Every time. 1, 2, 1, 2, shock glyph. And again, it fires off left, right, and center. It's disgusting. So infused on the back. God knows why they pushed it to be that strong, but it is at the moment, so make sure you utilize that. No potions required, or poisons rather. The other set we're using, of course, if you hadn't already noticed, is Groftar. This is a monster set. It drops in Vaults of Madness, and you want to make sure that you have this on at all times and stay in the boss's face, because this, as you may have seen, makes a big fire ring around you, and every 1 second for 5 seconds you will do damage in area of effect up to 8 meters across from the center of you. Flame damage, yes, of course, but it's really, really good, and it has a 5-second cooldown. 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down, then it can be reapplied. All you have to do is deal damage. any damage. So this will be up a lot. You want a heavy helmet and a medium shoulders, or the other way around, doesn't matter. You want infused on the helmet, divines on the shoulder. Infused on the chest, divines on the belt, divines on the hand, infused on the leg, and divines on the feet. We want to make sure the big pieces, which is chest, helmet, and legs, all have infused, because you'll get the biggest bonus from those. And all the smaller pieces all have divines, because divines is the same no matter what size of the piece is, so it makes sense to put it on the smaller ones instead. Now, traits for jewelry: 1 bloodthirsty, 1 arcane, 1 arcane. So spell damage on all of them. This will push your execute power to God knows where. It's incredible. It's really, really strong. So I know that was a bit muck and fuddled, but hopefully that wasn't too confusing. Now we're going to go into champion points, and I'm going to get on with the rotation, and I'm going to show you a quick skeleton smack as well. So 66 points into Ironclad, meaning that our direct damage incoming is reduced by 22%, which is insane because we get hit by lots of that. Hardy and Elemental Defender are both stuck at 13% there, so we reduce our incoming damage from physical, poison, disease, magic shock, frost flame, all that good stuff. Thick-skinned as well, reducing any of those damage types by 19% if they add damage over time. So they're very, very important. Also, Unchained. If you break free, for the next 5 seconds, any stamina ability you cost will be 80% less. Throw in a Beast Trap. It's cheap as hell. Just a little tip there. 15 points into quick recovery, meaning that we obviously increase our healing received, including the ones that we do to ourselves or other people do to us, by 4%, including your puncture and sweeps and your purifying light and your radiant glory, your Jesus beam. But also, for having 10 points in this tree, your res passive, remember that you res fast, well, also you take less damage while resing. So pop on a shield, hit that res button, you'll take less damage and you'll be quick at it. Now, 34 points into Warlord, reducing the cost of break free. You may want to put some more points into this depending on the content. If it's something really, really stressful with stuns and all that kind of stuff, like Hoff or possibly Cloud Rest, maybe you want to pump this up a bit more, but for me, this is actually quite comfortable. 75 points into Tenacity, 75 points into Arcanus. These are set at 14%, meaning if we do a heavy attack, we get 14% more resources back. Don't forget to do that during off balance, because that's when you get loads back. And of course, our recovery is up. Don't put any more points into here, because if you add a further 1% to this bonus, it's going to cost you 25 points to do it, and you won't have those 25 points to put in stuff like this. Now, tumbling, I do dodge roll quite a bit, especially when I'm running Maelstrom and stuff like that, although I wouldn't recommend it specifically for this build if you're not experienced. So I normally put 72 points into here. Yes, you can put those into Warlord instead if you find that more beneficial, but honestly, because I like to use dodge roll more than other stuff, shall we say, in some of the content that I do, not only do I have 72 points in here, but also I have the treasure passive as well, so I get more stuff from chests. You don't have to do that. It's kind of a little perk that I use, but in really serious content, when you get stunned a lot, put some more into Warlord. 61 points into Elfborn. Remember, we have our Beast Trap giving us minor force, so we have more crit damage. We have our own passive, so we have another 10% to crit damage, and we have another 21% to crit damage here. We do want to crit. 56 points into Elemental Expert, increasing all the damage we do by 12%, and 2.6k into Spell Erosion, so 29 points into there. That is 1 point, or maybe 2 points away. I think it's 2 points away from not far off of Sharpened, if that was a trait. So our penetration alongside Major Breach is very, very close to about 14k. That is absolutely fine. So if you add Alkosh to that, you hit around 17k. You add a normal Crusher to that, not an infused one, and you'll be very close to cap, if not slightly over. Now that's actually quite important, because if you get that far, if you over penetrate even slightly, that's only negative on a single target. If you have additional targets, they're not necessarily debuffed as much, so you will still have that increased penetration on surrounding targets. Now for solo, dungeon or trial content, this is absolutely fine, but if you find that you're in a very, very optimized group and you've calculated that you're ever so slightly over and you don't want to be, then of course you can drop this a little bit and put some more points into Elemental Expert instead. We are doing single target damage, so we do want Master of Arms, and we are using our staff for lights and heavy attacks. It's very, very important, in fact, so we want to put some more points into there. So 20 points Master of Arms, 19 points Staff Expert. We are using loads of dot damage, including our puncher and sweeps, so that does count. So we want to put this to 75 points, not just to increase the damage, but to also give us the Exploiter passive, meaning that if we knock the target off balance, hence the name of the build, we will actually gain not only a 10% damage to the overall damage that we're doing, alongside the crits and all the rest of it, but our heavy attacks, of course, already during off balance, give us 70% extra. This will stack on top of that as well. So this is very, very strong indeed. Now, rotation. The tricky stuff. It's actually not that tricky. It's really simple. When you get into a fight, you want to, of course, put the beast trap down. We are melee range. We're straight in there. There's the beast trap. Now, what you need to do then is swap bars. There's your spear. So you cast that first. Light attack. Solar barrage. Light attack. Wall of elements. Swap. Then you would use light attack. Purifying light, which I'll show you on the skeleton in a moment. Light attack again. Puncture and sweeps. Light attack again. Puncture and sweeps. So 2 of those. Light attack, beast trap, swap. Now I'm going to show you what that looks like on the skeleton real quick. Spear. Light solar barrage. Light wall of elements. Light power. Light stabs. Light stabs. Light beast trap, swap. Spear. Light solar. Light wall. Light power. Light stabs. Light stabs. Beast trap, swap. Keep repeating over and over and over and over. Really, really simple. However, there is a little bit of addition to that rotation in terms of sustain. You want to make sure you heavy attack occasionally. When do you heavy? Well, firstly, you could heavy when you're running low, but the most efficient way to do it is when the target is off balance. So if we can make this happen, hopefully we can. He's concussed. That's going to happen. Off balance. Heavy attack. Just once. Instead of one of your puncture and sweeps. If you can do that, not only will you do lots and lots of damage per tick for that heavy attack, because he's off balance, you do 70% increase plus crits, but you will also get double return. That is very important to your sustain. So every second rotation, if that gets knocked off balance, replace one of these with a heavy attack. Just once. And that will keep you up the whole time. If you're in an optimized trial, you may not even need to. It is disgusting. So, now I'm going to show you a skeleton getting beat up. Now, this particular test is using Sororia, using the precise staff, obviously, like we demonstrated on the gear section. And we're using Elemental Drain. So we have Major Breach, like every other DPS test in the world ever has. And that's it. So I have Minor Magic Steel, so I get a little bit of sustain back. I have Major Breach, like everybody does to simulate a taunt, and nothing else. No worm, no extra stuff, no spears, no bubbles, no cheese, no warhorn, no nothing. Enjoy. Now, if you're using War Maiden instead of hitting like 44, 45k DPS, you're hitting roughly 42-ish, maybe a little bit less. But it's very, very close. Remember, Sororia is based on your positioning and your ability to kind of get back that proc, whereas War Maiden will be active all the time. So the choice is yours. One might actually outweigh the other, depending on mechanic type. So Stack and Burn, Sororia, lots of maneuverability, War Maiden. However, like I said, the choice is yours. Anyway, hopefully that helped, hopefully that wasn't too boring, and hopefully you now have a better understanding how to play this particular build, and of course hopefully you will enjoy it as well. First of all, thank you all very, very much indeed for watching. I hugely appreciate the support, and if you're not subscribing already, please do hit that button, it is free. Furthermore, if you want to help support outside of the channel, there are some links in the description for Patreon, Twitter, Facebook, and of course the website XynodeGaming.com, where all the written guides are, and the forum is in fact now as well. And don't forget, I do stream every night on Twitch from 10 PM UK time. Once again, thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.